So yesterday, Diablo 4 had a big Campfire update for the Season 5 PTR, and it turns out some of the big issues I've been having with D4 are somewhat getting fixed. In fact, there are quite a bit of changes coming in to the new season, and even a possible new endgame encounter, which takes some liberties from Path of Exile, which is always a good thing. Let's go ahead though and jump into the actual setup of what happened and also break down what's been going on, the new PTR dates, and what we might expect in the future. So just a quick heads up, it looks like the PTR will begin on June 25th. Now to get into the PTR, you have to do it through battle.net, and if you're already part of the Season 4 PTR, do not delete that actual service. You can go ahead and just update it to Season 5 when it comes out. Now, a big complaint that I've had about Season 4 or even Diablo itself has been endgame content. And it turns out that they're going to be taking a page from Path of Exile. You see, they are working on something called Infernal, and it's going to be more of a roguelite system, to where as you constantly beat waves of enemies, you're going to get new powers in between those waves. Besides the waves, you're going to have a new encounter where you have to defeat 3 out of the 5 new bosses from the Fell Council, similarly like a callback from Diablo 2, which is honestly kind of wild to see as well. So that's a kind of like a cool little throwback to that. Now, the cool thing is the rewards that you're going to get at the end of this. You can get anything from masterworking items to items that are guaranteed a greater affix. I think that's one of the big things people are looking for, is trying to farm greater affixed items throughout their playtime to then masterwork and craft up. So this may be a good solution to that kind of mechanic. In addition to that, they're also going to be adding 50 new unique and legendary items coming to Season 5. That's going to be a great thing to add to new kind of builds, new mechanics, new styles, and that will really increase the amount of playable builds that people can use besides just going through the traditional meta that they've been trying to avoid for the very long time. There's things from a new druid staff, a new necromancer dagger, a barbarian sword, and a rogue dagger and a sorceress staff. If you want to check out more of the actual item descriptions, there's a link to the Wahed post down below. But let's keep going. Now here's a cool part, and I think this is going to be really interesting because now you can actually target farm specific uniques inside of obol vendors, hell tides, or even whisper caches. So each method will now have a chance to give the player a unique from the armor and weapon slot. For example, if you want a specific unique weapon, you can simply target weapons from the obol vendor and have a chance to get unique weapons for your class. This is honestly a great idea because now you can actually have an ability to say, go to the obol vendor, go do whisper caches. You have more incentive to do these actual things to give you the uniques that you're looking for. And then on top of that, you can then target farm whether or not these uniques would have greater affixes as well. And honestly, that's a great way of adding synergy to the actual gameplay rather than just saying, hey, I'm never doing whispers anymore besides gold, or I'm not doing hell tides anymore, or I'm not doing obol vendoring. We want to have incentives to do these things inside of the game, and this is a great way to tie those things together if done correctly. Now, this is going to be really wild for uniques as well. They're going to be increasing the upper roll of uniques. So a good example is if that a unique has a 40 to 80% increase in damage dealt, the new roll can now be between 40 to 100% or 40 to 120%. I'm an old Diablo player, so for me, I always look at the minimum more so than the maximum. However, though, having that upper roll will really help increase ways of providing a difference between other uniques as well, or having a more invested interest into getting those specific uniques and to replace them for legendaries as well. And it'll create more incentive to actually target farm those uniques besides the actual other modifiers that these uniques apply, whether to specific items or character classes. So this will be good because you can even target farm uniques that have a higher upper end roll that'll give you a better stat bonus throughout the end, and you could probably even then masterwork those if they are greater affix too. So this one is actually kind of crazy too. They want to have unique stat affixes to be updated to fit the loot.2.0 table. So they really want to have these changes to fit with the Season 4 update to simplify stats when they're appropriate, add tempering stats to uniques. So a two-handed weapon unique will more than likely have bonus projectiles to compete with the tempered weapons, and update stat power levels and effects. So stats that fit the theme of the unique are better. Example for fire damage on a fire unique. This is honestly great as well, because even though there are build defining uniques, having those bonuses to those stats is always a good thing. A good example for me is I have a Black River for my Necromancer, but at the same time, I also have a legendary that has better stats or the ability to have increased corpse explosion or things along that nature that are also tempered. So it's almost kind of difficult to choose which one will be ideal for me, But then at the same time, if we're going to be increasing those stats and increasing the upper limit rolls and then having just a better ability for these specific things on uniques, it makes that unique more valuable to me to go ahead and use rather than actually having something that I've crafted or tempered or masterworked on that back end. This is a good way of having uniques be explicitly given a reason to be used over just regular legendaries that you've crafted and masterworked and tempered on that end. So I think this is a good move. And this is a big one for me, where Uber uniques are now going to be called Mythic uniques, and their color scheme is going to be changed. I honestly hate that I had to look for a light pink or faded pink name on the actual screen. When the ground of the game is just a red color, it makes things kind of tough to read. But having them show up as a direct purple makes them stick out, provides more like, hey, whoa, hold on, this is going to be a big ticket item. And even better is going to be adding a sound effect to that as well. And that is going to be fantastic because you have that Pavlov dog sound popping off in your ear. You've got the color difference showing up on screen. It gives you a hype reason to enjoy and target farm these uniques or go after them after bosses or have a reason to do so. These small little changes are always a good thing because having those differentiating factors is always going to be a good way to separate, hey, look what you found, my boy. This is going to be the big ticket item. Congratulations. Now, there are going to be some big class changes as well, or some class updates. The cooldown for Invulnerable will begin once the effect ends rather than when the effect begins. And enemy crowd control effects will be reduced. On top of that, Barbarians will be receiving a new unique that will act as a support item. This is the Unbroken Chain. The Rogue will be receiving several buffs to the Flurry skill. The Druid will be receiving buffs to their companions, which is always a good sign. The Sorcerer will get a unique that will buff their Chain Lightning ability. Great. I know that was a really fun skill to use back when the game was originally announced, but this is always a nice thing to have as well. The Necromancer will get additional abilities for their minions, including a Golem Body Slam. Hopefully there adds a stun to that. That'd be really nice as well. And even better than that, they are now adding some quality of life updates in Season 5. You do not need a sigil to summon the Beast of Ice. The Beast of Ice will have its own unique boss room without the entire dungeon. And Varshan's summon materials will be condensed into one item, which is honestly a great thing. On top of that, bosses will be resummonable inside their own boss room, so you don't have to leave and reset the entire dungeon. That is huge for target farming and saving time. Instead of having to go back out, leave the dungeon, reset, go back in, you can just resummon the boss right then and there. So if you're either target farming for a specific unique from a loot table, or you're looking for something specific, it's not going to waste your time. This is honestly a huge update and move. Honestly, these changes in the PTR could be a huge beneficial factor for D4 moving forward into Season 5 and onward if Blizzard continues to listen to the community and create more quality of life fixes or more incentives for players to actually go through, or better in-game mechanics for players to actually enjoy and tie them all together, like I said in my last video, without just having just the pit only. You're going to see players stick around longer inside of D4 and play that season longer rather than just a few weeks and then drop the game entirely. This change and this shakeup from what we've seen before in the last 4 prior seasons is really something that's going to be interesting. Now, the real catalyst is going to be whether or not they actually have a good seasonal mechanic to add to this as well. If we're doing these quality of life changes and the mechanic for the season is impactful, enjoyable, and fun and can be applied to all these other endgame mechanics, you're going to see a lot of players really enjoy Season 5 and not skip the odd ones and only play the even ones. And I think that's going to be really interesting. Hopefully, Blizzard continues to see that there are things to be fixed in D4 and to really make it the best game it possibly can be. I know I've been very critical about Diablo 4 recently. I know a lot of my videos have sparked some controversy, but the thing is, I really care about this game and I care about this series of games. What I want to have happen is that the game provides players with so much more than just what they've had in Diablo 3. And they look back and they say, okay, let's really make this the best ARPG we possibly can make it for a more casual audience, which honestly is perfectly fine and okay. I'm not angry about that. What I want them to do, though, is listen to the community to provide more feedback and create a better experience for players all around and overall. These features seem like the right direction. These new changes seem like the right direction. And honestly, I can't wait to test them out in the PTR as well. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section down below. Are you excited for Season 5's PTR? Are you going to test it out? Do you think that the new mechanic is going to be good? Or do you still think it's only going to be the even seasons for you guys to play? Now, if you want to see more Diablo 4 content, more PoE content, more Last Epoch stuff, subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 1,000 subs, and I really do appreciate it. With all that being said, though, Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.